Well, good afternoon and welcome. My name is Brad, and I am the Outreach Services Manager at Education Quest Foundation. In honor of Financial Aid Awareness Month, Bellevue University and Education Quest Foundation in Nebraska teamed up to create Financial Fridays, a series of 5 20-minute webinar sessions designed to provide you the information you need on financial aid. This is session number 2. Today's session is Fafsa Friday. I will be providing information and answering some of the most common questions as it relates to the Fafsa. Throughout today's session, I encourage you to type your questions and comments in the Q&A box. The moderators will track your questions and I will address them live at the end. If you have questions related to your specific situation, we ask that you include your name, email, and phone number so that we can follow up with you directly to ensure your questions are fully answered. Before I start, I want you to know that you can hear me, but I cannot hear you. You're muted. This is because we are recording the session so those who are not able to attend today can view it later. If you would like a copy of today's presentation and recording, a link will be emailed to you following the webinar. That being said, let's go ahead and get started. Just a little bit about Education Quest. Education Quest is a nonprofit organization with a mission to improve access to higher education in Nebraska. So we provide free college planning services, need-based scholarship programs, college access grants for high schools, college access resources for middle schools, and outreach services for community agencies. We're currently taking appointments virtually. So we work with the college planning. We also work, if students have questions about student loans. So it's Fafsa Friday. What is the Fafsa?
Have you heard about Fafsa?
It's like a form you fill out.
Fill it out and you get money for college.
Easiest way to get money for college, hands down.
F-A-F-S-A.
It's a life hack.
It's your way in.
So you want to help me pay for college? I'm down.
Heck yeah.
Definitely.
How is this not trending on all the things?
It took me like 30 minutes to fill out.
So easy.
How much am I gonna get?
This is a hidden gem.
Fill out your FAFSA.
Fafsa.
Drink water, buckle up, fill out your Fafsa.
Submitting the FAFSA form is the most important thing you can do if you want financial aid. It stands for Free Application for Federal Student Aid, so you should not have to pay for filling out the FAFSA form. The FAFSA is your gateway to federal, state, and some college-based aid. This form needs to be submitted for the colleges to determine eligibility for federal grants, federal work study, and federal student loans. They may also use information from the FAFSA to determine eligibility for other financial aid resources. So colleges may have additional applications to apply for some of their college-based aid. So it's important that you check with the admissions and financial aid offices to verify all the forms you need to complete for all their financial aid programs. To begin the process of applying for financial aid, you and a parent, if you're considered a dependent for FAFSA filing purposes, must each create an account at studentaid.gov. It's what they call an FSA ID. It's really a username and password. This is also the site you will use to complete the FAFSA and apply for and track your student loans that you've taken out. You reapply for financial aid each year as income changes from year to year, so eligibility can change from year to year. So keep track of that FSA ID or username and password as you're going to continue to use it to access federal student aid. If you've already created an FSA ID because you've applied before and you can't remember it, you can click on log in, and through that process, you'll actually have links to forgot your username and forgot your password. When you log in to studentaid.gov, you'll see that toolbar across the top. One of them says apply for aid. When you hover over that, you'll have a drop-down box with an option to complete your FAFSA form. This is how you log in, and you'll see over on the left-hand side, there's a spot for a student to log in and a spot for the parent to log in. So if the student is considered dependent for FAFSA filing purposes and needs parent information to be completed, it can be done at different times. So again, the student can log in, save their information, and then let's say the parent's at a different location a couple days from now, they can log in with their username and password and finish the parent section. This is just the login page to the FAFSA. I just wanted to give you a visual of, you can see in blue, forgot username, forgot password. That's where you would click if you forgot your username or password. You will notice currently there are 2 financial aid award years that you can apply for. In most cases, the award year begins in the fall and ends in the summer term. So therefore, a student that plans to enroll the fall of 2021, so if we have seniors that are going to graduate in May and going to start college in the fall of 2021, you would complete the 2021-22 FAFSA. The 2021 FAFSA is the current financial aid cycle. So if students were planning to attend this summer, they would need to fill out the 2021 to catch the summer and then fill out the 21-22 to start in the fall. You can always check with the college financial aid office to verify which form or forms need to be completed. Now the 2021 FAFSA will ask for 2018 income, and the 21-22 FAFSA will ask for 2019 income. Colleges do have limited funding in some of the financial aid programs that they offer. So some come on a first come, first served basis. So it's really important that you apply early so you can be considered for everything that the college has to offer. Just because you qualify, if you're filing late in that financial aid award year, they may have ran out of some of their funding. On our website, educationquest.org, you can access our FAFSA tools. We actually have a Fafsa Demo, which are short videos of each section of the FAFSA form. And you can see they're pretty short videos to help walk you through the process. So you can always come back to this and view the videos to walk you through filling out the FAFSA form. So FAFSA completions are down nationwide this year and actually last year because of COVID. We just think it's important that you don't leave money on the table. So if you qualify for the maximum that you can get by filling out the FAFSA form, and you're an undergraduate student and you qualify for the maximum Pell Grant, that is $6,495. And you reapply yearly. So you could receive that amount again next year when you reapply. And grant money is gift money, money you don't have to repay. But you do have to fill out the FAFSA form to determine eligibility for that. For students that already have a bachelor's degree, those students are not eligible for federal Pell Grants. They can still receive federal work study, still receive the federal student loans. So it's important that they're still filling out the FAFSA form. Unfortunately, DACA students and international students are not eligible for federal financial aid, but some colleges may have you complete a form like on our website called our College Funding Estimator, which I'll show you in a little bit, for institutional aid. So this is how the whole process works. The student creates a student aid account or that FSA ID. If they're dependent and have to provide parent information, at least one of the parents will have to create an FSA ID. It's used to electronically sign the FAFSA form. And then they fill out the FAFSA form. It goes to the federal government. The federal government processes that information. And then they release the information to the college or colleges that you put on the form. And after you submit the FAFSA form, expect a student aid report, or what they call a SAR. It'll come via your email link because you'll put your email account on your FAFSA application. And it indicates what's called an expected family contribution, or EFC. It's what the federal government thinks you have the ability to pay towards the education for the year. It's not a cash dollar figure. The college uses that to determine eligibility for the different financial aid programs, but that SAR would also tell you if any further action was needed. So it's really important that you watch your student portal because the college may request that you have been picked for verification. And if you're picked for verification, they're going to want certain documents to verify what you put on the FAFSA form. And they can't award you any financial aid until they get that documentation. So you have to get that back to them. And then once they have that, then they can develop an award letter telling you what you qualify for in financial aid. And then it's up to you to accept or reject those awards. So who completes the FAFSA? If we're talking about a dependent student where a student has to provide parent information on the FAFSA form and the parents are married, then both parents are going to provide income information and family size information. But what if the student's in a household where there's a divorce situation? The student lists the parent that they lived with most in the last 12 months, so the custodial parent. But let's say that divorce situation, it's set up as equal custody. So half the time at one parent, half the time at another parent, then it's going to be the parent that provides the most financial support. Now, if the parent that they're living with has remarried, then they're going to have to provide that parent's information plus step parents' information. Also, if the student's living with parents that are unmarried, but the parents are living together, for FAFSA purposes, they consider that as married, so both parents' information would be required. There are special circumstances also. So when you fill out that FAFSA form, it asks for specific information, and there's nowhere on that application for you to type information about any special circumstances. So for example, let's say you had a loss of employment or income because you're using 2019 income to file the 21-22 FAFSA. Maybe because of COVID, somebody's been laid off or they're no longer employed. It's important you fill out the form how they ask and then notify the financial aid office of any change like that. And it's up to them to make any adjustments. If you major medical or dental expenses not covered by insurance, that's another special circumstance that you might have. So here you're going to see our contact information at Education Quest and Bellevue University's contact information. I want to show you on our website, which is again educationquest.org. You'll see down in the bottom right-hand side, FAFSA tools. And when you click on that, that's where you can get to our demo. The college funding estimator that I mentioned, for DACA students and international students, there may be some scholarship programs that want to look at your financial need, even though you're not eligible for federal aid. And they may use a tool like ours, this college funding estimator, to determine eligibility. Also, we have our FAFSA checklist. So if the student's filling out a 21-22 FAFSA, the checklist just says, here's what you need to have in front of you when you fill out the FAFSA form. And on the back side of it, where I talked about that dependency status, whether a student has to include parent information or not. This determines these questions. If a student marks no to all of these questions, they're required to put parent information. If they mark yes to any one of them, then they're independent and it's just their information and no parent information is required. So take advantage of our website, come out to it. We have a lot of tools on our website that you can get to. So we'll now open up the session for questions that may have come in. As a reminder, if you have a question or comment regarding what was presented, please type them in the Q&A box and one of the moderators will read it out loud. Emily, any questions at this time?
Yeah, it looks like we had a few questions come in. The first one I have is who completes the FAFSA if the student is an emancipated minor or is homeless or a runaway?
Okay. Within that checklist that I showed you on our website, there's those questions that determine dependency status. And one of those questions will be, as determined by a court in your state of legal residence, were you an emancipated minor? And if a student marks yes to that, they're automatically independent. It's just their information. If they are homeless, it's going to be the same thing. But I will tell you, every college, if a student marks that as yes, every college is going to select that student for verification because they want to document that information. So the student's going to just need to be able to provide the college with some information or documentation showing that that's the case. So if the student's homeless, for example, and is a high school student, every high school district has a homeless liaison. So they'd have to check with a liaison within that school district, get a letter from them so they could provide it to the college. Or if they're in a transitional living program through a HUD program, just some type of documentation like that. Same if a student's in foster care at any time after age 13 or a ward of the state or ward of the court, that automatically makes them independent also, and it's just their information that's required, but they'll have to document that with the financial aid office.
Okay.
I know that's a long-winded answer.
No, that's very helpful. So it sounds like if they have extra questions, they should definitely reach out to Education Quest for some help too.
Yes, and we can actually, one of the things we do, the main service we provide is helping fill out federal financial aid paperwork. So we're doing that virtually, helping them fill out the FAFSA form and getting it submitted.
Awesome. Okay, and I do have a couple more questions. The next one, what does a student do if the parent will not participate in the FAFSA process? For example, they aren't willing to provide tax information or create a FSA ID to sign into the application. Do you have any suggestions for students in that situation?
Yeah, well, unfortunately, based on federal guidance, it's the parents and students' responsibility to pay for higher education first. So if the student is considered a dependent student for financial aid, they do have to provide parent information on the FAFSA to be considered for all types of aid. If they choose, there'll be a spot when they go on electronically. If they're dependent and they click, there's a spot where they can click that they are not going to provide parent information, then they're going to only be eligible for the unsubsidized Stafford Student Loan Program, and they're not eligible for grants. Typically, as we're working with families, the reason that parents sometimes don't want to provide information is because they think they're going to be liable for any of the students' aid, and that's not the case. They have to get that information to determine eligibility for the grant programs, the work study, the student loans, and the parent isn't signing a promissory note. The student's just filling it out to determine eligibility for that. So sometimes as we have an appointment with students and parents, we can sometimes explain that to parents so they understand it a little bit more, and then hopefully they will provide that information.
That's good. Yeah, because I know sometimes we have other students too that are a little bit afraid their parents are afraid that the IRS might get their information or different things like that. So maybe the best way for a student to get help is just to bring their parents to you guys and have them get a little more information on how the process works.
Yep.
All right, and then I just have one last question.
Sure.
What about students who are dependent and are U.S. citizens, but the parents are undocumented? Can they complete the FAFSA?
They sure can. So if the student has a social security number, they're a U.S. citizen or have a social security number, they can file the FAFSA. When they get to the parent information, if they're considered dependent and the parents do not have a social security number, they would list all zeros in the social security numbers. Okay. They can't create an FSA ID or username. The parents can't because they do not have a social security number, but the student can file the FAFSA, use zeros as the social security numbers for the parents. And then when they get to the signature portion of the FAFSA form, the student can sign electronically because they have the FSA ID. But one of the parents, you're going to have to print out a signature page. And one of the parents will have to sign that. There'll be an address at the bottom of that signature page that they mail that in to the federal government, and then they match that together and finish the processing cycle. It takes a little longer for that obviously to happen. So it's important where we talked about limited funding in certain programs that students that are in that situation, they want to make sure they're applying early.
Yeah, definitely. Awesome. Well, thank you. That is all the questions that we had in the chat here.
Well, you're welcome. So thank you for attending FAFSA Friday webinar. We hope you found it helpful. We look forward to seeing you at our next session. The next Financial Friday session is Know Before You Owe and will take place Friday, February 19th at noon Standard Time. Thank you and have a great rest of the day. Stay warm if you can in this weather.